I like to feel, say, hey, look, if I can change just a few people and just give them a different perspective, they don't have to agree with me, but just saying, hey, you know what? I never thought of it that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? You have something there. You know, or even just educating them and say, hey, look, you don't have to be a cop. You don't have to go through the police academy. However, there are different programs that is allotted for you, the citizens, such as our Citizens Patrol Academy. It's like a 12, 13-week program where citizens from all different walks of life come to our, to our station. You sign up, you go through the background checks, and once all that's done, you go through pretty much a soft version of what our recruit will go through, because they'll go to the academy, they'll shoot, they'll drive our fleet vehicles, they learn the laws, search and seizure, all these different things. They get to meet our officers out there. They also do a ride along. And so I've spoken to many of those that have graduated and actually had really, really positive things to say and open up their minds, of how policing is, and many of them didn't agree, but they say, hey, you know what? I can see, why you do the things you guys do. And I commend you guys for that.
Did they do scenarios in that?
I'm not sure if they do scenarios.
Because I remember going through the academy, like scenarios was the scariest part.
Of course
because you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And sometimes you kind of do know what the scenario is going to be, but it's still kind of scary.
It is.
And it's a protected environment.
Of course. Yeah.
It pales in comparison to what happens on the street, what happens when you get on the road.
You
really don't know what's going on.
Right. And that's, again, another thing that our community members don't know is that there's so many different, hours and hours of training where you're at the academy. I remember having a conversation with somebody. I posted something and it was funny because they're like, okay, so you have about 1,000 hours of training at the academy, which equates to about 5.5, 6 months. But then we have, on the professional side, there's a professional barber that has a minimum of 1,500 hours that they got to go through. So you're saying that, our barbers, more qualified, like how come their training is way more than you as just a police officer, And so my response was, well, first of all, I'm a little offended because you're comparing me to a professional barber, because not all professional barbers will get the right haircut, and then just going through training is just one of many things, because after the academy, there's so many other layers of training after that.
How the public doesn't necessarily perceive what happens in a police officer's job, right?
Yeah.
But then just now that provision passed in legislature?
Yeah, the House Bill 285.
House Bill 285. Yeah. What is the deal with that?
So basically, House Bill 285, the bill encompasses where they want to release our officer's name. Well, prior to the HB 285, the law currently stands as if an officer gets arrested and or terminated, then the name becomes public record.
Oh, yeah, it goes in the news.
Right, yeah. Right. So they want to release everything prior to that. So from a 1-day suspension, where it could be something administrative where it's late reports or been coming into work late and you get suspended for it, they want to release that. The issue behind 285, it circumvents our due process.
Yeah.
So it doesn't allow us to go through our due process like everybody else and just put us out there and then have the union come in and grieve it and go through that. And then once it's cleared, we're like, okay, you know what? We'll give you your day back. But by that time, the damage has already been done.
Are the names out to the public or are they out to like the legislature?
It's out to the public. Anybody can get it. Someone homeless outside can come in and request it, and you're mandated to
for getting suspended for coming to work late, or something.
Late reports or something, and not even criminal. It's more administrative side. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, we got to release the names.
Because like the criminal stuff, like you said before, obviously is going to get posted if you get criminal charges brought against you or you're arrested.
Correct.
Arrest records, they're public information anyways.
Yes.
And the news media pretty much jumps on that, right? Anytime a HPD officer gets arrested, it goes on the news, and rightly so, right? Yeah. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. I'm saying, hold cops accountable. That's fine.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, if you're going to, post the names of police officers that were suspended for a day for an administrative thing that has probably nothing to do with their interactions with the public.
Right.
What are you telling those officers now?
Right.
What are you telling those supervisors? Like, are the supervisors are they going to be suspending people for those infractions anymore?
Yeah. And so our supervisors, they're allowed to suspend their subordinates without even, they have that authority to do so. The unfortunate thing is they release these names, and it's, for example, Officer Faumuina, 1 day suspension, and they don't even give the reason why. That name, my name goes out, it's out in the public. You have maybe a group of people that just hate cops for whatever reason.
No, those don't exist. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know who these people are. Right. And they start talking story about it in their household. And then they realize, hey, isn't that that's your classmate. That's his dad. Like, yeah. See, look, they're all corrupt. And then that boy goes to school, sees my son and said, hey, I heard we were talking about your dad. He was on the news. His name came out. Oh, your dad's a dirty cop. See, they're all corrupted. And so, and then that starts a whole, bullying, cyberbullying. And so he goes way beyond than just the name of the officer. It affects the family members. Yeah. And so that was one of the reasons why Shopo came in and opposed the bill for amongst other different reasons. Yeah.
Is there anything comparable in other organizations, other
Nope.
professionals?
Nope. Everyone, I think, from what I understand, that all city employees all fall under that same rule. The only difference with us is they skip the due process, and so they just let our names out, because our city employees will go through, through the investigation, through all of that, and then the decision is made, and then it can be released. But they want to circumvent that part and just put our names out to the public. Yeah. So the bill passed. Yeah, if people are wondering, hey, how can we help? It's too late. The bill passed already. It went to the Senate. They voted overwhelmingly. I think the vote was 20-4 or something like that.
Okay, so should we go back to releasing names of DUI arrests?
I think so.
Yeah,
right? Because they did it in the past.
Because we were doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Honolulu was doing that, and then we stopped because
again,
politicians were getting arrested.
Yeah. And then
their names are going out.
Yeah, the shame and the embarrassment, and so they stopped it.
Yeah, I mean, if we want transparency, we should have transparency.
Absolutely.
Correct? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you want to talk about transparency. When they did the bill, it happened when we I think it was last week Monday when we went and did the rally. The prior week Thursday is when they brought the bill out. They didn't give any public testimony, obvious reason because of COVID, but you can do it online. You can go through, do like a Zoom conference and have the public and the members, share their reasons why they oppose the bill. So they circumvented that. And so they didn't even allow that. They didn't even give the 48-hour notice. There are all these different things when a bill goes through. There's a process that they have to go through. And all of that just got backdoored. And they just ran with it and they was able to push it. And so for many years, this bill's been around. It started off as 92F back in the 90s. I think 1995. In fact, Shopo did a video about it way back then, and we were able to stop it all these years. But given the way the nation is with policing, the lawmakers felt like if there's any time to strike right now while the iron's hot, this is the time to do it.
Yeah, and lawmakers need to watch out because you're going to end up having a profession that nobody wants to be a part of.
We're already feeling it.
Right.
Yeah.
NYPD is showing record numbers of retirees, right? And in fact, they're trying to limit how many people retire day to day because their retirement system is being overwhelmed.
And cutting their budget. $1 billion.
Right.
Cutting their police budget. Yeah, literally tying their hands.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest police department
in
the world.
I believe so, yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of anti-terrorism stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't know. I mean, it's NYPD. It's huge. There have been a number of movies and TV shows based upon that police department.
Yeah.
Good and bad. I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah. Blue Bloods.
Yeah. But, to cut $1 billion, I have to ask, what the hell was their budget before?
Yeah. Crazy. Well, yeah, look, the patrol officers alone are 40,000 plus just out there.
Yeah, that's a lot of that.
And that's a separate union. And then you have the sergeants and detectives with, I believe, 5,500 plus.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a separate union. So it's such a huge department.
And that's just NYPD. That's just
NYPD.
That's not what is the other departments there? The Port Authority?
Yeah, Port Authority.
Yeah, that's completely separate.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have the plainclothes unit. They all disbanded them.
And then the shootings skyrocketed.
Yeah, 200%.
Yeah.
The very next couple of days. Crazy. I mean, I don't know what these lawmakers are thinking, what they're doing. and I made comments online, like, I think I posted something regarding our lawmakers, like, stop following what's happening out there. We voted you in for a certain reason. Don't follow. When are you going to lead?
Right.
Be leaders. That's what we voted you in there for. And we're different. Stop comparing us to what's happening on the continent, because we're very, very different. We have our officers that work in the areas that they live in. So there's a vested interest for them to take care of their community.
Yep.
Right. And again, we're on an island. We talked about this earlier before this podcast. This island's so small. It's the usual questions we ask. Hey, where you from? What high school you went? What's your family names? And somehow the 6th degree of separations ends up too, very different, Yeah.
Yeah. The degrees of knowing someone here in Hawaii is very, very small.
Very.
And, I would contend that a lot of people don't realize that they know someone who's actually related to a police officer or is a police officer, and they just don't know that.
Yeah. I remember pulling somebody over, and I didn't know who that person was, and female driver screaming, just yelling at me, and I was like, what, lady, like, you're on your phone and you ran the red light and you almost hit that person. This is why I'm pulling you over. Can you see the reason? And just yelling, screaming. But after it was done, I think a couple weeks later, we had a family party, and guess who I ran into? That same female lady. And we find out, she's related to my wife's family. Like, what? Right. So imagine the embarrassment.
Did you call her out?
I did.
Hey, I tagged you.
I was like, hey, no, I was like, hey, auntie, you remember me? And she was like, I was trying to avoid you, small guy. And I said, don't worry about it. It's all good. Like, that's just between me and you. That's work. That's work. Leave it there. Pow.
Yeah.
Pow. You never know.
Yeah. One of the things I did learn is that when I was on my time on the road is that people have bad days. You pull people over and they're just screaming, or they're totally frustrated, or, in some instances they're bawling and crying. And it's like, okay, I just pulled you over. I know it's not because of what I did. Yeah. Can we talk about why you're being so emotional? Why, what is really frustrating? A lot of that happened with like domestic violence calls. You get there and the guys, they're fighting, arguing, bickering, maybe some hitting, and, they're going off, and then you show up and they all of a sudden the energy turns towards the police officers that show up.
Yeah.
It's like, from the police officer's point of view, it's like, you can't take that personally. You have to be the vacuum for them to vent at, and just take it all in, not personally. They just want to vent and yell at you. Take it. Let them have their 30 seconds to a minute of, active aggression, just not active aggression, but aggressively, talking at you. And then die down and say, okay, dude, I just showed up. I know you're frustrated. Let's talk about what's going on. Tell me what's going on. I'm here to, if you want to vent, if you want to yell at me, go yell. If you hate police, go ahead, yell. I'll sit here and I'll listen to it, and then we'll talk about it. Yeah. And, it deflates the situation, right? It deflates the person. It lets them get that energy out. And then you can actually start to have a regular conversation with the person. And at the end, almost every single time, at the end, the person's like, officer, I'm so sorry. I was just frustrated. Sure. I'm like, yeah, dude, I totally understand. I get frustrated too. And if you need someone to vent the frustration and listen to you, we're here for that too.
Yeah.